The darkness was overwhelming, thick and absolute, like ink spilled across the universe. Nexa shivered, her small, alien frame curled up against the jagged stone of the cave. Her translucent lavender skin glowed faintly, a feature of her kind, but it did nothing to push back the black that pressed in on her from every side. Wide, luminous eyes darted nervously, searching for a sliver of light, any sign that this nightmare might end. Just days ago, was it days? Time no longer made sense. She'd been chasing glowflies with her younger siblings outside the protective vines of the village. Laughing, free. Then came the noise. A thunderous crunch. The sky seemed to split. Something huge descended in a blur of claws and hissed breath. She'd screamed. Kicked. Bit down on something leathery and wrong. But no one came. And now she was here. The creatures outside were unlike anything from her world stories. Towering, skeletal things that shimmered like broken glass under moonlight. With too many limbs and jagged teeth, they prowled just beyond the cave's narrow opening. Nexa had learned not to cry out when they peered in, just freeze, hold breath, pray. Her stomach growled angrily. She hadn't eaten since the abduction. Only a few stolen bites of ripe chewfruit tucked away in her satchel. The rest had long since rotted or been devoured by cave mice. Hunger bit at her belly like a cruel joke, but the ache in her chest was worse. She missed home. Her mother's lullabies. Her father's booming stories about sky whales and starlight. Her brother's smug grin when he snuck her the best bits of dinner under the table. Tears slipped down her cheeks, hot despite the cave's icy air. What had she done to deserve this? Why hadn't anyone come? Maybe no one even knew she was gone. Maybe she was just forgotten. Then, crunch. The sound wasn't from outside. It came from within the cave. Slow, deliberate footsteps. Not the scrabbling of claws. No, this was different. Rhythmic. Confident. Terror spiked in her throat. She scrambled backward, her bony elbows scraping against stone. The noise drew closer, echoing in the confined space. A whisper of movement, then, light. Soft and flickering. A figure emerged, kneeling with cautious purpose. Human. Nexa froze. Humans were rare, rumored, feared. They came in metal ships, with weapons that burned the sky. Her elders warned children never to go near them. But this one didn't look like a legend. He looked tired. His armor was scraped and dented. His face streaked with soot. In one hand, he held a glowing cylinder that cast long shadows across the cave's craggy walls. His voice cut through the quiet, low and hesitant. "Hello? Anyone there?" She whimpered. Just barely. The man's head snapped in her direction, then softened. He lowered the device, raising both hands in a clear sign of peace. "It's okay. I'm not here to hurt you." Nexa blinked at him, curled tighter into herself. "You're just a kid, huh?" He murmured, almost to himself. He stepped closer, slow, careful, as if she might bolt like a frightened animal. She almost did. But something in his voice stopped her. A note of kindness she hadn't heard in days. Not since the world had gone silent. "What's your name?" he asked gently. Her lips cracked open. Her voice came out raspy, barely audible. "Nexa." He smiled, sad and warm. "Nexa. That's a strong name. I'm Commander Rain. I'm here to help." "Help?" She stared at the gloved hand he offered. Her own fingers twitched. She didn't trust him. She didn't trust anything anymore. But something inside her, the small part that still dared to hope, reached out. Her fingers brushed his. Connection. Just like that, she wasn't alone anymore. "We need to get you out of here," Rain said, glancing toward the cave's mouth. Growls echoed beyond, louder now. But we'll have to be careful. Those things out there won't be thrilled. They'll eat us, Nexa whispered. Not if I have anything to say about it, Rain replied, his tone sharp and resolute. Still, Nexa saw the tightness in his jaw. He was scared, too. Why? She asked suddenly. Why are you helping me? Rain hesitated. Because no one should be alone in the dark, he said at last. Especially not you. Her throat tightened. She nodded. They spent the next few minutes devising a plan. Rain's ship wasn't far, camouflaged under jungle canopy, cloaked by shielding tech. If they could make it, they could escape. But first, food. Rain handed her a ration bar from his belt pouch. Eat. You'll need the strength. She tore into it with trembling hands. It was tasteless and dry, but it was food. Rain chuckled as she devoured it. First time with synthetic protein. We don't have this stuff, she muttered between bites. Lucky you, he grinned. I've lived off these for years. A tiny smile tugged at her lips. Just for a moment, the fear ebbed. When she finished, he helped her stand. Ready? He asked. Ready. Together, they slipped into the night. Chaos erupted instantly. The creatures shrieked, lunging from the shadows. Rain fired blast after blast, bursts of searing blue cutting through the black. Nexa clung to his arm, ducking behind him as monstrous limbs slashed the air. The scent of burning ozone filled her lungs. Stay with me. Rain shouted. They darted between beasts, weaving through narrow gaps. Nexa stumbled, and one claw grazed her shoulder. Pain flared, but she kept running. The ship shimmered ahead, sleek, silver, almost invisible against the jungle. Rain punched a code into the console. The hatch opened. Inside, he barked. Nexa dove in. Rain followed, spinning to unleash one last volley at the pursuing horde before slamming the hatch shut. The ship shook as monsters slammed against its hull. Then, liftoff. As the forest dropped away below, Nexa collapsed into the co-pilot seat, panting. That, Rain gasped, was too close.
He gave her a crooked smile. Welcome aboard. Mostly safe travels guaranteed. Nexa laughed. For the first time in forever, she laughed. And just like that, the darkness began to lose its grip. The ship soared through the murky upper atmosphere, a streak of silver disappearing into the swirling clouds above the jungle. Nexa pressed her face against the cold glass of the viewport, eyes wide with awe. Stars. Endless and brilliant, scattered across the sky like spilled luminescent dust. She had never been this high before. Never left the soil of her homeworld. For a moment, she forgot about the beasts, the cave, the fear. For a moment, everything was beautiful. Commander Rain adjusted a few dials on the control panel, glancing sideways at her. You're quiet. She nodded slowly, still staring at the stars. It's just. I didn't think I'd see this again. Rain leaned back in his seat, his expression unreadable. You will. A lot more of it, if I have anything to say about it. She smiled faintly, but the joy faded quickly. Her thoughts drifted back to the village. To the people she left behind. Her mother's songs. Her father's rough, warm hands. Her brother's grumpy, protective teasing. She hugged her knees to her chest and whispered, "Do you think they're looking for me?" Rain sighed and ran a hand through his unkempt hair. I can't say for sure. But parents, they don't stop. Not really. Not the good ones. I don't know if they even know I'm alive. Then let's go find out. He tapped a few commands into the console. A holographic map flickered to life in front of them, a topographic layout of the region. Red zones pulsed like angry sores on the planet's surface, denoting danger, wild territories, predator nests, energy storms. Rain zoomed in on a cluster of lakes surrounded by hilly forestlands. "Is this your region?" he asked, pointing. Nexa leaned forward, her heart racing. "Yes. That's it. Near the lake called Veluan." He nodded. "Then we've got a heading. But, we can't fly straight in," she said, her voice suddenly cautious. "The beasts, and maybe worse. They'd see us." Rain chuckled. "Trust me, I've landed on worse. But you're not wrong." He gestured to the terrain. "We'll land miles out and go the rest on foot. Quiet, low, fast." Nexa bit her lip. "What if they're gone?" He paused, then placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and warm. "Then we find out what happened. And we take it from there." "Okay," she whispered. The ship descended carefully, gliding through thick clouds and toward the forested expanse beyond the lake. Rain guided it into a secluded clearing, hidden beneath towering moss-covered trees. They landed with barely a whisper. As the ship powered down, the world outside fell into eerie stillness. No wind. No birds. Just the rustle of leaves under something unseen. "Time to gear up," Rain said, standing. He handed Nexa a tiny, lightweight blaster. She held it as if it were poisonous. "I don't know how to use this. Just point and shoot." "Only if you have to," he said. "I'll handle the rest." She nodded, swallowing hard. He packed rations, medkits, energy cells, and a few grenades into his satchel. Nexa grabbed her old satchel too, now nearly empty save for a cracked toy orb her brother had once given her. She clipped it to her belt. "Let's move." The forest was alive with sounds, strange clicks, distant howls, the soft buzz of glowing insects. Nexa stayed close, stepping where Rain stepped, mimicking his careful pace. The trees were twisted, their bark like melted stone. Vines hung like tendrils, some of them twitching as if aware of their presence. Once, they passed a nest of crawler wasps. Rain held a hand up, motioning for stillness. The insects drifted past them, unaware, their wings emitting a low-frequency hum that vibrated in her chest. Hours passed. The sun dipped below the horizon, bathing the forest in purple twilight. They found a shallow cave to rest, tucked behind a curtain of thick moss. Rain built a small fire with a compact heater module, its glow casting warm amber shadows. Nexa curled up beside him, exhausted. Her legs ached, and her eyes burned with fatigue. "Tell me about your family," Rain said softly, stirring the flame with a stick. She blinked at him, caught off guard. "Why?" "Because we're going to find them. I want to know who I'm risking my neck for." Nexa smiled weakly. "My mom sings to the plants. They grow faster when she does. My dad's a builder. He once fixed a whole irrigation system with a single vine. And my brother, he acts like he doesn't care, but he always sneaks me his dessert when I'm sad. Sounds like a good crew." "They are. Were. I don't know if." Rain shook his head. "No giving up. But what if they moved on? What if they thought I was dead? Then we remind them you're not." She nodded slowly, eyes heavy. "Thanks for coming for me." He didn't answer right away. Then, after a pause, "You're worth the trip." They shared the last of the rations, stale but edible, and settled in for the night. Rain didn't sleep. He watched the entrance, weapon in hand. Nexa drifted off beside him, her breathing soft and steady for the first time in days. By morning, they pressed forward. The terrain worsened, steep slopes, cold rivers, slippery rocks. Rain led them up an overgrown cliff, his boots finding impossible footholds. Nexa struggled behind, but never gave up. At one point, they slipped into a tangle of razor grass, each blade sharp as metal. Rain shielded her with his body, earning deep cuts across his arms. They pressed on. Until finally, they saw it. The ridge opened into a valley, and below, the village. Or what was left of it. Charred timbers. Scorched fields. Smoke drifting in lazy plumes. The vibrant colors of home replaced with ruin. Nexa staggered forward, her knees nearly giving out. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." Rain grabbed her arm. "Stay here. Let me scout." But she yanked away. "I have to see." They descended together, the ashes of homes crunching beneath their boots. Claw marks tore through walls. Scorch patterns painted the ground like blood. The scent of death lingered, faint but undeniable. In the square, they found a cluster of survivors, frail, gaunt, terrified. A few elders. A few children. No one of fighting age. One elder, her hair silver and eyes like frost, stepped forward, eyes narrowing. "Who are you?" "We're not enemies," Rain said quickly, hands up. "We're looking for someone." The woman's eyes landed on Nexa. She froze. Her lips trembled. "Nexa." Nexa's breath caught. "You know me?" The woman nodded, tears brimming. "Oh, child. We thought you were lost forever." And then, there was a voice. A ragged, broken voice that made Nexa's heart stop. "Nexa." She turned. There, limping toward her, was a man, strong but weathered, soot staining his face, tears already falling. "Dad." She ran. They collided in a fierce, silent hug. "My girl," he choked. "We never stopped looking." She clung to him as her knees gave out. More arms joined the embrace. Her mother. Her brother, pretending not to cry. "You're such a pain," he muttered, voice cracking. "You missed me," she sniffled. "Shut up," he said, ruffling her hair. Behind them, Rain stepped back, a quiet smile on his face. Reunited, but the ruins around them whispered of the cost. The moment of reunion was sweet, but brief. Nexa's family crowded around her, embracing her as if afraid she'd vanish again. Her mother wept silently, running her fingers through Nexa's tangled hair, murmuring her name over and over like a prayer. Her brother stood a step away, trying, and failing, to look indifferent, though his reddened eyes betrayed him. "I thought I'd never see you again," her father said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We searched. We fought. But they came in the night." His words faltered, choked off by grief. Rain stepped forward quietly, his expression serious. "What happened here?" An elder stepped from the group, the silver-haired woman from before. Her voice carried strength despite the frailty of her frame. It was the Zarak. The name hung in the air like a curse. Nexa blinked, confused. "Who?" "The Zarak Dominion," Rain muttered, his jaw tight. "I've heard rumors. Raiders. Slavers. Resource strippers. Always moving. Always burning." The elder nodded solemnly. "They came without warning. Fire and thunder. They burned the fields. Tore down homes. But they weren't here for destruction alone." She looked Rain directly in the eyes. "They took our seed vault." A hush fell over the survivors. Rain frowned. "Seed vault?" "It held everything," Nexa's father said. "Every strain of plant we've bred over generations. Crops suited for this soil, for our climate. Without it, we can't regrow." "We're not just rebuilding homes," the elder added. "We're trying to survive. But without food, we won't last the next season." Rain exhaled slowly, rubbing his face. "Let me guess. You want me to get it back?" "You've already done more than enough," Nexa's father said quickly. We won't ask more of you. You didn't ask, Rain replied, glancing toward Nexa. And I didn't come this far to walk away when people are starving. A surge of gratitude rippled through the villagers, but Nexa's heart dropped. She knew what this meant. The fortress. The Zorak. Danger worse than before. Still, she didn't hesitate. I'm coming too. The sentence landed like a dropped stone. No, her father and Rain said in unison. You've done enough, her father added, stern. You almost died once. I won't lose you again. Nexa stood tall, her small shoulders squared. It's my home too. I won't watch others risk everything while I sit here doing nothing. You're not trained, Rain said. I've been hunted, starved, and chased by monsters. I'm still here. Rain looked at her father. The older man stared back, torn. Then, reluctantly, he nodded. She follows your orders. Every single one. Deal, Rain said. Deal, Nexa echoed. The next morning, under the cover of fog, they departed. Rain, Nexa, her father, Joran, and 3 of the village's strongest volunteers. They moved quickly, keeping to ridgelines and gorges to avoid aerial patrols. The terrain shifted beneath their feet, mossy cliffs gave way to cracked basalt, then to foul-smelling swamps littered with decaying flora. No one spoke much. The tension was thick. By midday, they reached their destination, a rocky outcrop overlooking the Zorak stronghold. From this vantage point, the compound looked like a scar across the earth, metal walls, spiked towers, patrol drones hovering like insects. Energy fences flickered along the perimeter, blue and menacing. Within the walls, Rain could make out movement. Dozens of guards, heavy artillery, maybe even mechs. He lowered his binoculars with a grunt. This won't be easy. We sneak in? Joran asked. Too many sensors. Even cloaked, we'll get pinged. Then what? Nexa asked. Rain looked at her, considering. A distraction, he said finally. Something loud. Something unexpected. Something they'll never think would come from a kid. Nexa's eyes lit up. I can do it. No, Joran barked. Absolutely not. But Rain was already nodding slowly. Actually, she might be the best shot we've got. What? She's small, fast, and knows the terrain, Rain reasoned. They won't be looking for a child to outsmart them. It gives us an opening. Joran turned to his daughter, torn between fury and fear. It's suicide. I'll be careful, Nexa said softly. I promise. I need to do this. After a long silence, her father finally relented. One mistake, and you run. No heroics. Deal.
They reviewed the plan. Rain would infiltrate the main storage facility under the cover of Nexa's distraction. The others would secure a path out and hold a fallback point near the canyon pass. If all else failed, they'd retreat to the ship and pray the skies were clear. As the sun dipped low, the team split up. Nexa crouched near a supply line outside the fence, waiting for the patrols to cycle past. Her heart pounded like thunder in her chest. She pulled a homemade explosive from her satchel, just like Rain showed her. Volatile but controlled. She lit the fuse and hurled it toward a cluster of fuel canisters. Boom! The explosion rocked the base. Fire erupted in brilliant oranges and reds. Alarms shrieked. Chaos spilled from every doorway as guards scrambled toward the flames. Nexa bolted in the opposite direction, slipping between rock outcroppings, leading guards away with noisemakers and flash pellets. She felt her blood roar with adrenaline. She was doing it. Meanwhile, inside the fortress, Rain moved like a shadow, blaster drawn, nerves taut. The storage chamber was deep underground. Guards lined the corridors. Rain disabled cameras, used smoke to blind sensors, and moved with calculated grace. Then, there it was. The vault. Encased in carbon steel, lined with biometric locks. He pulled out a coded EMP pulse device and launched it at the locking mechanism. The lights flickered. The vault clicked open. He reached inside and lifted the crate, heavy, full of hope. The seeds were intact. Just then, his comm crackled. "Rain," Nexa hissed, her voice tense. "We've got a problem. Too many. I can't shake them." "Fall back," he replied instantly. "Now." "But what about you?" "I said go." Before he could move, a low, mechanical growl filled the chamber. A massive figure stepped from the shadows, black armor, a glowing red visor, a weapon humming with energy. "You," it said, voice like grinding metal. "You're the pest causing this mess." Rain squared his shoulders. "Nice to meet you too." The Zorak commander raised its weapon. Rain grinned, lifting his blaster. "This isn't over." The Zorak commander towered over Rain, every inch of its armored frame radiating menace. Energy surged around its weapon like lightning caught in a cage. Rain's breath came slow and measured as he weighed his options, none of them good. Behind him, the seed vault crate rested against the wall. Heavy. Fragile. Essential. He couldn't let it fall into enemy hands. The commander stepped forward. "You've made a mess of things, human." "And for what?" "A box of plants." Rain smiled coolly. "You'd be surprised what a little life can mean." Without warning, he fired. 3 rapid shots, one to the left, one to the right, and one at the commander's chest. The first 2 struck exposed power conduits, showering the room in sparks. The third ricocheted off the armor with no effect. The Zorak warrior snarled and surged forward. Rain dove to the side, rolling behind a column. The crate, too big to carry while fighting, remained behind him. His comm buzzed again. "Rain. Where are you?" Nexa's voice was breathless, panicked. "Change of plans," he answered between blasts. "Get out." "That's an order." "I'm not." He cut the transmission. No time for arguing. The commander slammed its weapon into the pillar, sending cracks racing through the stone. Rain stumbled backward as chunks rained down, then fired again, this time aiming for the ceiling. Dust exploded overhead. A chunk of the roof collapsed between them, buying him seconds. He sprinted for the crate, grabbed it, and ran. Behind him, the commander roared, claws dragging through the wreckage. Above ground, Nexa crouched beneath a broken wall, heart racing. Explosions shook the compound. Soldiers were shouting orders, but they still hadn't found her. She moved through the chaos, ducking low, using her small frame and speed to stay invisible. Then she heard the commander's voice echo from hidden loudspeakers. "Security breach. Intruder in Sector 7. Eliminate on sight. Retrieve the vault." She cursed under her breath. They knew. Rain was in trouble. Just then, a patrol rounded the corner. Too many to sneak past. Nexa hesitated, then hurled a flare into the air. It exploded in brilliant green. The guards turned, shouting, chasing after the light. She bolted in the opposite direction, heading toward the fallback point. Joran was already there, crouched behind a ridge, watching through binoculars. "Where's Rain?" "He's still inside," she said, panting. "Fighting something big." Joran swore. "We go back in." Before they could move, the fortress shuddered. A deafening boom rang out, and thick smoke billowed from the central tower. A figure emerged from the haze. "Rain." He staggered forward, half limping, half running, the seed vault strapped to his back with jury-rigged cable. His face was streaked with soot, armor dented and cracked. Behind him, the Zarak commander burst from the smoke, enraged. "Cover him!" Joran shouted. The volunteers opened fire, launching blasts and grenades to keep the commander at bay. Rain leapt over the final barrier, landing hard on the extraction ridge. "Go!" he barked. They ran. The extraction ship shimmered into view, decloaking as its engines powered up. The rear hatch slid open with a hiss. One by one, they piled in. Rain stumbled last, collapsing into a seat as Joran slammed the hatch shut behind him. "Get us out of here," he shouted. The pilot, an older villager with just enough training to fly a straight line, threw the controls forward. The ship launched skyward, engines shrieking. Below them, the fortress detonated. A chain reaction, ignited by Rain's final trick. One of the power conduits he'd shot earlier had overloaded, feeding back into the base's core. Flames engulfed the compound, and the shockwave rattled the ship.
In the cockpit, Nexa sat gripping the armrest, her knuckles white. She stared down through the viewport as the fortress shrank behind them, a smoldering blot against the jungle. "They're not going to forget this," she said quietly. "They're not supposed to," Rain replied from behind her, slumped and grinning. "Let them know what happens when they mess with farmers." Back at the village, the survivors waited with bated breath as the ship touched down. When the hatch opened, and Rain stepped out carrying the vault, a cheer erupted. Tears flowed. People hugged. Children clung to parents. And the seeds were safe. They wasted no time. The vault was brought to the center of what was once the town square. Botanists and elders opened it with reverent hands. Inside, rows of glowing seed pods pulsed with life, each one a key to the village's future. Planting began that very afternoon. Nexa stood beside Rain, watching the ceremony. "You did it," she said softly. He shook his head. "We did." She looked up at him. His armor was battered. His lip was split. But he smiled anyway. "Thank you, Rain." He looked down at her with a tired grin. "You sure you don't want to join my crew? We could use someone with your spark." "I'm not ready to leave yet," she said. "Not while there's work to be done." He nodded. "Then I guess I'll stick around a bit longer." The sun dipped low, casting the valley in warm amber light. Villagers danced. Fires crackled. Laughter returned, hesitant but real. And beneath it all, the soil began to breathe again. The celebrations lasted into the night. Under strings of salvaged lights and flickering lanterns, the village square slowly transformed. Where ash once clung to charred stone, music now flowed, soft, imperfect melodies played on instruments repaired by loving hands. Children chased each other barefoot through the fields. Elders shared stories. And the first sprouts from the seed vault, nurtured in nutrient beds, shimmered faintly under the stars. Nexa sat quietly at the edge of the fire circle, a bowl of spiced root stew warming her fingers. It smelled like home. Like safety. Like before. But she didn't eat. Not yet. Her eyes were fixed on the edge of the clearing where Rain stood, alone beneath the giant torchvine tree, watching the horizon like a man who wasn't used to resting. He hadn't joined the music. Hadn't taken off his armor. Just stood there, one hand resting on the hilt of his blaster like the fight still wasn't over. She walked up slowly, her small feet crunching in the dry soil. He didn't move until she was beside him. "You're going to leave, aren't you?" Rain sighed. "Soon, yeah. Trouble doesn't wait long. And after today, I'm pretty sure the Zarak have added me to their list of things to shoot on sight. You could stay. Just a little longer." "I might," he said. "But I'm not really built for peace and quiet, kid." Nexa looked out across the fields. Her mother was laughing with the seed keepers. Her father was patching a broken irrigation pipe. Her brother, trying to act cool, was secretly teaching younger kids how to load fruit into slingshots. Feels like a dream, she whispered. It's not, Rain replied. You made it real. All of you did. She was quiet for a while. Then, I thought I was going to die in that cave. Rain turned to her. But you didn't. You came. Of course I did. But you didn't even know me. Rain looked up at the stars. Didn't have to. Some things, you just do. Because they're right. Because they matter. She nodded, and for a while, they said nothing. Just listened to the wind rustling the crops, the faint sound of laughter behind them. Then Nexa asked, What now? He scratched his stubbled chin. Well. That depends. On. You, he said simply. You've got options. You could stay here. Help rebuild. Or, maybe train. Learn to fight. Learn to fly. She blinked up at him. You teach me. If you want. You've already got the heart for it. That's the hard part. She smiled slowly. Then a little wider. I think I do want to learn. Then I'll be here until you're ready. He knelt down and held out his pinky finger, an old Earth gesture, he explained. Promise. She wrapped hers around his. Promise. The next few days passed quickly. Fields were cleared, seeds planted, water lines reconnected. Rain helped where he could, lifting, welding, digging. But mostly, he watched. Watched the way Nexa no longer flinched when thunder cracked. Watched the way she took charge when other kids hesitated. Watched the way her eyes lit up when her father called her strong. And on the morning of his departure, he found her sitting in the ship's co-pilot seat, swinging her legs and pretending to press buttons. You sure about staying? He asked. She nodded. For now. He smiled. You'll be all right, Nexa. She reached into her satchel and pulled out the toy orb her brother had given her. It still flickered faintly. Here, she said, offering it to him. Your lucky charm, he asked. You'll need it more than me. He accepted it reverently, clipping it to his belt. They walked together to the edge of the clearing where villagers had gathered to say goodbye. Hugs were exchanged. Jokes traded. A few tears, even from her brother, who mumbled something about stupid pollen in the air. Rain stepped aboard the ship, the ramp hissing shut behind him. As the engines powered up, Nexa waved. He pressed his palm to the window. The ship lifted, hovered, and then roared into the sky, shrinking into a pinpoint of light. She stood there long after it disappeared, the breeze tugging gently at her tunic. The sky was clear. The ground was growing. And the girl who had once been lost was now part of something bigger, something strong. Something alive. And so, with the stars stretched wide above her and soil reborn beneath her feet, Nexa stepped into the next chapter of her life, not as the frightened child lost in a cave, but as someone who had faced darkness and found her way home. Commander Rain's visit became legend in the village. Stories spread of the outsider who walked through fire, stood against monsters, and carried hope in a steel box. Nexa's own journey, her courage, her cleverness, became just as vital to those tales. But legends fade. Life continues. The village healed, slowly. And the fields bloomed once again. Sometimes, when the sky was clear and the wind right, a silver streak would flash across the stars, and Nexa would smile. Because she knew. Rain was still out there. Still fighting for people who needed help. Still answering calls in the dark. And maybe one day, when she was ready, she'd join him. Until then, she had work to do. Thank you for watching this story of survival, hope, and unexpected heroes. If you felt something, if Nexa's journey moved you even a little, please like this video, subscribe to our channel for more original sci-fi stories, and share this with someone who believes in second chances. We've got more journeys to come. And we'd love for you to be there when the next one begins.